I'm going to take, now our dry brushing is all done on our window, so now we're going to put our window trims. So I'm using my Zero Round, and I'm using Almandine, and I'm going to do this one with window trim like so. Once I've done the Almandine, now I'm going to switch to Warm White, and I'm going to bring Warm White as a highlight back down through the middle. I'm not intending on covering all of my Almandine, I'm highlighting it. And now I'm going to use my black brown, and okay, I'll start like so. We're going to outline underneath, and this is going to create what I'm going to consider my shadow lines. We're not getting into shading on the windows or any of that. We're just adding these extra little features. So I'll come down along the left side and the bottom of these pieces. And I'm going to come down that side and along the bottom. So you can see already the difference that just that outlining makes on these pieces. So again, across the bottom, this is our black-brown mix. Down the side, stop, stop, stop. And then down the left. I can go across the top as well. The bottom's going to end up getting covered with our little flower box under the window. We don't need to worry about the little round window because it's going to end up having our little garland wreath put around it. This one's a bit thick here. Clean up that edge. All right, so I'm going to do this to all of our windows. I won't keep you watching while I do all of that. So we'll just carry on, do all of our windows like that. All right, I'm going to shade. We're going to shade all of the houses under the eaves. And we're not concerned, we just want to get a nice wide float. So I'm using my 1/2 inch and milk chocolate. And I'm going to walk that shadow out, but you're going to want to let it dry in between. I'll do under the chimney and walk it down. So I'll let this dry, and I'm going to shade along the bottom of my house and walk that up. Do everywhere you can that you're not going to interfere with letting something else dry. So I've done on this house. So now I'll come over onto this house. Just to show, rather than doing under the eaves right now, I'll come down and bring the shadow to create the back wall. I'll shade to separate the chimney from the roof, And then I can go ahead and shade under the eaves. I'm not concerned about getting it on my roof because we can go back and touch up all of that. So we'll just go all the way around and keep shading to separate. I'm going to take almondine on a dry brush and dry brush the middle of our sections on the tree. This is going to round them out and get them looking really dimensional. So again, it's almondine, dry brushed in the middle. Might pop that one up a bit more. Yeah. So I will continue with all of the trees. Once our houses are all shaded with our burnt umber as our strengthening, then we're going to go in there with our almondine and we're going to dry brush highlights on our gingerbread. We'll go everywhere that the gingerbread is left visible without our shading. So you'll go throughout the whole little row of houses and we will go from there. We're going to apply a wash of milk chocolate over the left side of the chimneys. Now I've got my roof base coated here, which doesn't help, but normally that would be an after event. So while that's drying, I'm going to take and I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a dry brush of burlap on my shutters. That's burlap on the shutters. Now that's not too bad up there. I'm going to thin down almondine and we're going to add with a liner. Going to use a liner and I'm going to thin down and add brick lines on our chimneys. Now we're doing, of course, all the chimneys. And if I put a brick line there, skip a row, skip a row, skip a row. Then I'd come over here and here, go in the middle, here, here, middle, here. So this gives, I'll come over here, this one's missing his line, so a little more solid would be better. Okay, so we're going to end up shading over all of this. And I'm going to take Bittersweet. I'm coming back down to my window and I'm going to outline my shutters and window there. And we're going to add lines on our shutters with Bittersweet, and just little random. They're not to be, you know, but this is going to create the look of shutters. So we're not doing tons of shading work or anything. It's just enhancing everything with a bit of outlining. So I'll do all of my windows like that. All right, so we're going to carry on and do the rest of the windows. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade with milk chocolate. Now this is the same that we're shaded on all of our houses. I'm shading milk chocolate, and I'll flip my brush here, walk it out. And then again, I'm going to give that a dry. We're going to shade under the top to the chimney, walk it down, and I'm going to shade along the next to the house, the roof, walk it up, and then again dry it and repeat. Now my second shading on our chimney, same as our houses and our trees. Walk it down. My intention here is to strengthen the shading, but not to cover and choke out all of the milk chocolate shading. I still want to see that shading. So I'm allowing that to dry. And this is burnt umber now, of course. We're strengthening it up. And flip it around and burnt umber along that side. So we are doing the exact same thing on all of our chimneys. I hadn't shaded my awning yet. That's shaded with burnt umber. And I'm using my 1/4 inch or number 8. We're going to shade, walk it out, and I'm going to shade my door as well. So our doors are shaded with burnt umber. Nice and soft, walk it out. I didn't shade under my awning, and I should have. And upside my door. And I haven't shaded along the outer part on this window either. Along the bottom. It's easier for me to do this. All that time I'm doing that shading and it's not underneath the camera. Okay, so where I shaded was burnt umber on the awning, burnt umber on my door, and I mentioned how I hadn't shaded my milk chocolate along the bottom or around my windows here, which I should have. Oh, I can't believe all that time it wasn't under the camera. So it's just the same old shading that we're side load, float, and shade. Get a little frazzled, Wendy. Here we go. This piece has so much shading in it that we're not bothering with the sitting there and having you follow all the way along. It's the same thing on the top of the trees, milk chocolate, and on the house, milk chocolate. Then we're going back and strengthening with burnt umber in all the same shading spots. So I'll have to come back here and strengthen these ones up again too. And then we'll be going to the other parts to our doors. So I have this door over here that I haven't done yet, so I will do that one with my burnt umber for you. And this one has the doorstep. Now I took a bit of the bottom section of my doorstep off because the piece that I'm working on, when the doorstep came down to here, it's different on the bowls, but on this one, it just kind of looked really out of place because it didn't line up with the other houses. So you shade on your doorstep, along the bottom of your steps, come up and onto the door. Now that would be the other doorstep along there as well. And I'm going to shade on my door as well. So that's a side load of burnt, stay on the door, Wendy, stay on the door. Burnt umber, walk it in, flip your brush over to here, burnt umber, walk it in. I'm notorious for fixing up my over the edge shading with lining and different things. So let's see here, I have more shading to do along the top of this window that I didn't do, and the bottom as well. There. When we put our trims on our windows, it's going to make a difference. So I'm going to dry that and we'll come back and I'll show you the next step on our doors. I'm going to dry brush with the mixture, our cocoa and almondine mixture, which I had changed from 1:1 to 2 cocoa, 1 almondine. It was just a little too bright. And that's the same mixture I'm going to dry brush on my house with. I'll pop this up a bit there. Okay, and then we're going to take, and I'm going to add some bittersweet, thin down bittersweet wood grain lines on my doors. They're not necessarily to come right from top to bottom. Remember, you have to have water in there to thin down, but we're not looking to have top to bottom. And we can go in here and we can outline our door as well. We're going to put a door frame on here in our homework before the next class. Now, if you're following this on Pattern Pack, some of the people in our class follow along, and so of course the same thing. Different things will be listed in your pattern at different places, but we do things in order to keep them easier and keep the class moving along when it's in a class. When you're doing them at your own leisure, you don't have to have the houses transferred on. When you do your background, you do the entire background, all those kinds of things. But that's just the way it works in a class. So we just move things around. So I'll do all of my windows, dry brushing, or pardon me, all of my doors. Same thing, dry brush in the middle, and then add my wood grain lines. And I'll outline my door, and you can add a doorknob and gussy up. We're going to be adding the different things to our pieces. We're going to be adding our gingerbread, and you can use stencils when we do that. You can use, I've put them in the pattern, but I traced them out off of mine, but I did have stencils and I've used those and they're quite cute. So I'm going to outline that too. I think that'll crisp it up. The outlining just pops everything up a little bit. All right, so that's how we're doing our doors. I'm going to float our highlight with our mixture of cocoa and almondine. And I will start along the bottom of my tree and move up nice and soft. So we've done our burnt milk chocolate and burnt umber along the top and underneath each one of our layers. And now we're coming along opposite on top of them and floating our highlight. Now you can come up the tree edge a little bit, just like so if you want. If they're skinny layers, I want to make sure I start at the bottom. And what I mean by that is I don't want to end up if I start up here and it was a very skinny layer and the water part of my brush wipes out where I floated, it makes a big mess. So a lot of times we start at the bottom. I'm going to go back over that a bit more. So we'll do all of our trees. I'm not going to make you sit and watch this. They're all the same. Now we've shaded between our trees. Do you see how I can just kind of bring that, because this tree's on top, I can slide my highlight like so. Where it's going to be over the house and over the tree beside it. So nice and soft, we'll continue that on all of our trees. Okay, I've done my floating my highlight on all my trees now, and I'm gonna come back here. I need a drier place to be getting a dry brush. Okay, so I'm notorious for wrecking brushes. You wear down lunar blenders a lot. So you see how it doesn't have those long little tips on it anymore. They're perfect for dry brushing, especially to get into areas like this where we don't want to come up too far. So I use those, I save them and I use them for dry brushing. They're wonderful. So we're going to dry brush our highlight more up the middle of our trees where we floated our highlight. This is going to give them a little bit of rounding. Even though they're cookies, we still want them to have some dimension, right? So a little bit of this dry brushing. Up the middle. So I'll carry on all of my trees. All right, so that's our dry brushing, our highlight floating, our shading, everything on our doors. I'm going to dry brush. These are the candy sticks. So these would be peppermint sticks if they were on a colored gingerbread house, but we're doing our gingerbread house as if it's monotone, right? So we're going to take, I've dry brushed to highlight on the Bittersweet, and now I'm going to take my liner and I'm just going to use Almondine, and I'm going to pull nice stripes on our chocolate candy sticks. So we'll just pull little twists all the way down. That guy kind of blurred. So once they're done, even though the chocolate stick, candy stick is done in Bittersweet, I'm going to still take Bittersweet and outline along the edges. You wouldn't think it's going to make a difference, but it cleans up our edges. So I outline along the edge between the door and the candy stick, and between the wall and the candy stick. Okay, so we have 2 houses with that. We're going to go ahead, pardon me, and we're going to do that. Now we have all our shading. I'm going to take my Almondine and my zero round, and I'm going to outline my windows, putting on my window frame. The bottom, I'm going to frame it, but with the bottom of our windows, they've got window boxes with flowers and or garlands and what greenery in them. So that may get completely hidden, most likely. There we go. Make sure I've got enough paint in my brush so it can fill in my base coating. So because our background has the sponging in it, a lot of times it gives us issues. Whoops, getting a little close to that door frame. Okay, I'm really bad also for not having things even. Some people are very good at making them all even and spaced out, but yeah, you're not looking at that girl here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish off all of my window frames in Almondine. So that is our next step.